Hi everyone, my name's Alex from the United Kingdom. This is my awesome BMW F900R and it's time to give it an oil change. Let's get started. I used a 3/8 ratchet, entirely up to you. I used a T50 Torx, that was for the first sunbung. And then higher up, which is probably only a couple of centimeters, I used a H5 extended on an extended quarter drive, but you don't have, I really didn't need that sort of perch in order to crack it off. This motorcycle runs a dry sump system, although it's a very compact dry sump system. So you have this sump bung here, which is T50, and then up inside of it another one. A top tip is to make sure that your Torx bit goes up and into, okay, as far as it can. Don't just have it in an angle, wibbly wobbling about. Get it stuck right up in there. If there's any dirt or anything, get a really small screwdriver and dig it out, okay? Make sure that that is as clean as possible so that you can insert your tool as far in as possible, or you're just going to end up stripping the threads off of your tool and then you're going to be in a right mess. Nice. So that's the first one removed. You can always inspect your magnet for any swarf and we'll get that all cleaned up. So that's the first one all cleaned up and it's just dripping. One of the things I'm likely to do now is check for the washer, because that didn't seem to come off with the sump bung. And if I should put a new washer on there and put it on the bike, we're going to get a leak if I don't find the original washer. So I'm just going to stick my finger up and see if the washer is there. Found the washers inside the oil pan and replaced for new. Further up inside is another sump bung. So I've got my 5mm extended. I have to insert it up. And I'm just going to undo it by hand. So my dog keeping an eye on proceedings. This bit gets a little bit messy. Nice. Let's clean this one up. For the oil filter, I'm just using an oil filter removal tool. It's always worth making sure you give it a bit of a wiggle so that it's actually as fitted onto your oil filter as possible. Lefty loosey undoes it. Mine wasn't insanely tight, but it did take 2 hands just to free it off. And all I've done is move my oil bucket because things are about to get messy. I'll let that leak out for a few moments before I undo the filter anymore. Instead of taking the oil filter tool off with the oil filter, now that it's undone, I give the oil filter tool a bit of a wiggle to remove it from the filter. And that way I don't have to fight it later on, because trying to remove that from a filter that's off the bike, complete nightmare. It's had a good drip. Let's now just unwind it some more. Oh, there we go. I'll let it drip for another few moments before I remove it completely. Okay, I've given it 60 seconds. It's kind of finished dripping loads. A little more. And that's its original BMW oil filter with a little corrosion on it. I'm just going to place it there. I'm replacing my rusty BMW oil filter with high flow. I'm okay with aftermarket filters, it's no problem. This one's going to aid easy removal in the future, but it's a personal choice, girls and boys. You can choose whatever you want to put on your motorcycle. There'll be some of you that go OEM only. I kind of like these, they're okay. I think they're cost effective, given that my motorcycle is going to get oil changed twice a year. It's just more cost effective, and over the years I've not had any problems, but I'm not an advocate for any particular brand. I don't mind. My bike definitely needed an oil change. I believe this is a HF160. You don't have to have an RC one, but it's a HF160. It's pre-oiled, as you can see, and the price difference was £7.50 delivered versus nearly 20 quid. Or was it 22.99? So there's a big price difference between them. I can see that the old gasket is on the oil filter. It's not still on the bike. This one's pre-oiled. I'll clean this up with some brake cleaner in a minute. High flow on the bike and spin it on nicely. Try not to do it at an angle. You don't want to cross thread it. You have a choice. Tighten it up by hand or use the nut. Entirely up to you. When it comes to tightening oil filters, hand tight is good enough. As you can see, I'm not wrenching on my wrench. I'm just using it for perch, and that is enough. I really don't need to tighten it. I haven't even taken the paint off of the nut there. Brake cleaner is amazing. It just makes all your sins go away. Given that we're no longer really dripping, it's had about 25 minutes. I'm going to place the first sump bung back up. Make sure that your tool is fully inserted. There we go. Just going to give the mouth of the sump a little tidy up. Up goes the external sump bung. Try and get it straight, Alex. You don't want to cross thread this. Whee. For the purposes of science, I am going to pour the oil that came out of my motorcycle into an old oil can, and we are going to see how much oil came out of my F900R. So it's just over 1 litre now. Coming up to the 2 litre mark. That's actually shocked me. I've got 2.6 litres of oil. That is unexpected, because it's supposed to be 3, some people say 3.5 litres. I got 2.5 out of my bike. Oh. I am using Limitless Ultra 5W40 by Smith & Allen. I buy it in 20 litres because I have a few BMWs. Just up to 3 litres and stop. Oh, I didn't do too bad, I did all right. Time to fill the bike up. and there's no point in me measuring right now because oil has not circulated throughout the engine. There we go. Hasn't circulated throughout the oil filter. There's a ways for it to go. So a dry sump system is something that manufacturers have used for a long time. This is my 1970s Honda CB750. Lovely compact engine, and that's because it has oil pipes which go to a tank here, which holds my oil. On other motorcycles, again, nice compact engine. This is a Yamaha. The oil is actually held partly in the engine and partly in the frame. And to give you an example on a Yamaha, this part of the frame here is where you fill it up with oil. So the design for this engine is a dry sump, if you like, but there is literally a sump within a sump. This is my BMW K1300S, and you can see that even it has a dry sump. That's its oil tank there, the black plastic thing. And you can see my red castor oil, and that's just an outside. The reason it looks like it's below low is because it's on its side stand. Put it upright, and the oil level returns, which is just easy for checking. All right. I've had my motorcycle running for 6 minutes, and then I've turned it off and let it settle for 2 minutes, and I'm going to check the oil level. I was always taught to screw them back in to check the oil level. You might tell me different. Would you say it's about there? Sorry. So it's kind of between minimum and maximum, and I find that totally acceptable. I've seen a few people adding an extra half a litre. That's personal preference. This motorcycle was designed to have 3 litres of oil, not 3.5 litres. So I put 3 litres in, that's all it's going to get. To top it up even more with expansion, etc., or settling, who's to say, I might end up blowing seals, so I'm not going to take the risk. And an update for you from the mothership. This is referencing inaccurate oil level readings on the dipstick, which I don't suffer from. However, even the K13 does fluctuate a little bit depending on how hot it is, how cold it is, and how it's been ridden. The corrections in the corrections section here, and it says production vehicles no longer have the expander plug installed at the factory starting September 13th, 2021 with engine numbers 372 and upwards. So the expander plug is the smaller of the 2 sump bungs. So literally they are now allowing both oil galleries to mix together, and it is no longer a dry sump system. However, this update is referencing inaccurate oil level readings, and it does say here that up to a total of 4 litres maximum is allowed within the engine casings. If there's concern the oil level's too high, then drain, etc. That's not to say you should put 4 litres of oil in your motorcycle. I phoned up Ocean Motorrad in Plymouth, Virtue in Exeter, and Dick Lovett, BMW Motorrad in Bristol, and all 3 service told me 3 litres of oil for the F900R. So I'm going to stick with that. But this is just a service bulletin regarding inaccurate oil level. I have messaged a couple of F900 Cup race teams a couple of days ago, and I'm just waiting on a response from them as to what they're doing about the removal of the expander plug in their 2022 bikes. Mine's a 2021, and I'll update you if they message. And another update for you, I've received messages back from 2 F900R Cup race teams who have 2022 F900R bikes, and they have added the expander plug back into the engine to turn it back into a dry sump system for racing. So if race teams are using the dry sump system, I'm going to stay with it and not remove the expander plug, which is the smaller of the sump bungs, from my engine. If they're using it in racing, it's good enough for me. And again, the amount of oil recovered, including what came out of the oil filter, the original BMW oil filter, is now settling at around 2.6 litres. There can be some extra oil left in the oil filter. Don't forget I took it off, and so it's possible there's a few hundred mils or maybe oil got burnt off. Argue it amongst yourselves. But I've put the correct amount back into the motorcycle, so I'm happy that I've done that. I just want to thank you all for checking out my oil change video. Hero says thank you too. He actually says, follow me for the treats. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video. I hope it makes sense. Any questions, leave them in the comment section. There was 2 washers. One had fallen down into the oil bin, and the other one was still up there. I did fish it out, and I replaced both, but just with filming and using one hand and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, maybe I'll do better filming next time. No leaks, so that's always good. I think I might just treat this motorcycle to an exhaust. Oh yeah.